Hi guys, White Witch 110 here. How is everybody? We have had a fabulous day here in Ottawa. Our temperature has gotten up to, I believe it was 66 Fahrenheit here. Right now I have the patio door open with the screen, of course, or I should say the balcony door. Screen's closed, of course, and have the window open to let some of that nice air inside. It is such a relief to be away from those nasty cold temperatures, although I do believe next week they are calling for us to go back down to single digits, but we know after that it will be double digits on a constant basis. So we'll put up with a few days next week, unless it changes, of the single digits, but we are all very happy. Now tonight I'm going to read you some of the story that I've been working on. Sorry I haven't been around too much as of lately, but with the kittens and all, we've been quite busy. Right now Sassy is sleeping on my purse that I'm not using on top of my paints, and Gizmo's on the bed. Pearl was just here, but she left. And I guess Waverly's out there too. And I don't have a title for this one as yet, but here we go. We were walking along the path at dusk. Clouds had moved in, and the dampness hung in the air. It wouldn't be long before the rain came. We were a couple of hours away from the car. There was no way we'd make it back before then. Our only thing to do was find shelter. The last place I wanted to be on a path in the woods now. Cameron suggested we continue towards the car park. I agreed and hastened my steps. It always amazed me how your surroundings change as you lose light. The wind was picking up. Leaves throughout the forest were telling us to hush. The force of it caused me to believe someone was pushing me along the path. Cameron took a breath of relief, realizing our pace was bringing us closer to the car. No one knew we were here. The number one rule was to let someone know. Our cell phone signal was weak. This was the making of a horror movie. We had shaved a half hour off our time being in a hurry. I could have kissed the car when it came into view. We hadn't noticed the lights that had been added to the parking lot over the fall. The first turn of the key took the color from our faces. The engine did not turn over. Cameron huffed and tried again. Nothing. He slammed the flats of his hands on the wheel as he cussed under his breath. We both said a panicked prayer. Third time was a charm. He sped out of the lot with a spray of gravel behind us. Safe at home, he reprimanded himself for putting us in danger. I attempted to calm him, pointing out I was just as much to blame. We were safe now. We both took showers and went to bed. The clean, cool sheets were a welcome comfort. The evening had a chill, so we pulled an extra blanket over ourselves. We had been asleep an hour when the rain hit. A flash of lightning, crack of thunder woke us. The shadow of our maple tree gave us both a scare. We were admittedly still on edge. Cameron closed the window, then came back to bed. We were soon back to sleep. The following morning, we awoke to a light rain. We took our coffees under the cover of our back porch. The smell of the rain is always a comfort to us. Cameron and I lived in a rural area at the time. Our house was one in a new development. The neighbors were like us, all in our 30s. Although we were friendly, everyone respected the other's privacy. The development was 5 years old at the time. Being surrounded by trees had been the appealing factor of moving here. Hearing birds in the morning and watching deer in the early evening was wonderful. That week, following neighbors' remarks about feeling watched in their own homes, we started to think. Most had begun closing their curtains. Others purchased blinds from the department store in the city. Cameron and I had always kept ours closed when it got dark. The popular opinion, of course, was a Sasquatch, because our homes were by the forest. Cameron and I doubted this. We had hiked quite a bit through this area. We had never seen any proof of them being here. There were no reports of sightings. Either way, I was anxious to get back out there. Our schedules of work and home became monotonous. We wanted more than a commute in our lives. Cameron decided to build a couple of small cottages on our large property. Tiny houses were popular, so why not? There was no rule against it, so he got to work with the help of his friends. The conversation circled round to the feeling of being watched. This concern made Cameron aware that these buildings must be safe. Also, there must be window coverings to ease the sensation. The men made great timing in the construction of the tiny homes. Before long, they had a community of smaller dwellings. This should guarantee extra cash flow for all of us. As the days grew warmer, thoughts of being watched subsided. We had eagerly awaited the green, fresh grass and burst of colorful flowers. It was a relief to feel the summer sun on our skin once more. Our cabana shade would fade in color even more. It didn't take long to rent out the small houses. We were all grateful for that. Midsummer arrived. The weather had been good. We sat around a bonfire reminiscing about our summer so far. It was at this point one of the renters mentioned the feeling of being watched while tanning in the front yard. This brought back to us all the experiences earlier in the season. My thought was, do we say anything? None of us had seen anything, but felt that persistent sensation. That evening, as we all sat around the fire, George regaled us with scary urban legends. Not what you actually want to hear when many of us reported being watched. Of course, tales of Sasquatch were prevalent. We were on the cusp of calling it a night when the most eerie screeching noise filtered out through the trees. In that instant, our laughter was stifled with fear. What in the hell was it? George and Cameron shook it off, believing it was some type of animal that had been caught by a wolf. The consensus was to extinguish the fire and head on inside. "Remember to lock your doors and windows," George called out teasingly. For some of us, that heightened our discomfort. The odd sound from the forest played in our minds. George was ready the next morning to explore the woods in locating an answer to the sound. A couple of the other men were directly behind him. He inquired of Cameron if he would join in. Against his better judgment, he left with them. He was intelligent enough to pack his two-way radio. Cell service would be sketchy at best. Cameron realized how apprehensive I was. They agreed on a window of 3 hours. The 4 of us women congregated at our house. It was the closest to the woods. My conundrum was how to keep our thoughts from dwelling on the time. This was an arduous task. I attempted to retain a pleasant conversation, knowledge about each of the wives. In turn, I informed them of our relationship and what led us here. This is when the tide turned. In that split second, our thoughts were back on our husbands. They had been out there for over an hour now. Francis politely inquired if I could check on their progress. Cameron to base, how are things? It took a few nail-biting moments for him to respond. Cameron to Jill, we're doing fine. Haven't found anything yet. Inform the ladies not to fret. Each husband assured their wife things were good and they loved them. See you in a couple of hours, Cameron signed off. The time passed. Just checking my time here. The time passed and the men still had not made it back. I got on the two-way radio and contact Cameron as to their whereabouts. Jill, we've made it to the other side of the forest. There's an abandoned village. We're going to stay the night. Don't worry, we're all good. See you in the morning. I assured the wives there is nothing to worry about. I seen each of them home, confident in what I was saying. We began with the furthest house and worked our way back. I walked the remaining 2 blocks alone. I peered over my shoulder a number of times due to the feeling I was being watched. Once inside my home, I locked the door behind me and then went about checking the latches on the windows before drawing the curtains. The men were all experienced hikers. In that respect, there was no need to worry. The screeching sound played in my mind. I continued to wonder exactly where it came from. It was around 7 a.m. when Cameron placed his key in the lock. Having slept on the sofa, I awoke to the sound. Cameron took a seat on the sofa beside me. He is ready to tell me of their exploration of the forest and abandoned village. Once we were there, within range of the cell tower, I searched for maps of the area. None of the maps made note of this habitat. I suggested we go back. Maybe it wouldn't be there. Cameron assured me it was not a group hallucination. I made the request to the wives that we accompany them to the location later that day. We would prepare for an overnight stay. No Sasquatch signs anywhere throughout the path we took. I can't honestly say what made that noise, he told me. I felt I was being watched on my way home last night. I carried the mace with me just in case. I made sure everything was locked, I informed him. After our brief conversation, we prepared ourselves for the hike and overnight stay. Did you sense anything from the buildings? I asked. No. That is the strange part. I'm beginning to wonder if it was a theme park, although no one mentioned one. Cameron made a quick search with no results. By 11, the men were rested and the women were packed. Once again, they congregated at our house. a double check of supplies, and we were on our way. We followed the identical route they had taken the day before. Partway through the hike, we stopped for libation. The ice water soothed our dry throats, and the sweat on the plastic bottles was refreshing. Even with a canopy of leaves, the sun found its way to beat upon our skin. Cameron informed me we still had a ways to go. Our next stop would be for lunch, a late lunch. We weren't far from the abandoned village, but the men decided to break for food. I sat off to the side on a large flat boulder. George's wife, Leslie, joined me. "It's pretty scenery," she made small talk. "Yes, it is," I agreed, looking around. She leaned and whispered, "I felt like we were being watched the last half hour." I thought the same thing, I told her. "I don't think we should say anything, though." "We should at least tell George and Cameron," she suggested. I agreed. The men came over to sit with us. I spoke up, explaining what Leslie and I had been sensing. We were all in agreement to keep this to ourselves. Recharged, we completed the hike. Walking out of the trees was like opening a curtain. Seeing the structures in front of me, I believed all the more that this was a theme park or a film set. The other women were in agreement. There was a church, a couple of homes, and what appeared to be a store. There was also a barn. The other buildings had already succumbed to the elements. Cameron took us over to what had been a store. "This is where we stayed last night." We all deposited our gear behind the counter. Undeniably, the atmosphere was more than creepy. The sensation of being watched was intense. Leslie remained close so we could speak without the others hearing. "You can feel it, can't you?" Leslie said. "Yes." My eyes scanned the setting for any movement. We were not alone. We took our time exploring the buildings. I had to admit, it did seem like someone had lived here. Maybe it had been a working village. The only structure I was apprehensive about was that barn. Something about it didn't sit right with me. "Cameron, did you check out the barn yesterday?" I inquired. To be honest, no. We were preoccupied with these places. There was an uneasy tone in his voice that was disturbing. He always had a confident voice, though not in this account. It was abnormal to observe the fact none of us went towards to explore. The clock ticked and the sun was setting. George built a fire to keep us warm and cooked dinner. As the sky grew darker, the sensation was amplified. Rose and Dan went off on their own towards the barn. Without a thought, I shouted, "Come back! Don't go in there!" They completed their step and turned. The urgency in my voice brought them back in our direction. "I didn't mean to panic you. It's just such a foreboding sense when glancing at that barn." Everyone's head turned. It was as if they were collectively attempting to witness what I felt. Leslie and I took flashlights into the house closest to the bonfire. "What is in that barn making us feel this way?" Leslie thought out loud. "Wish I knew, but I'm not about to go in," I told her. Neither of us could make up our minds on this abandoned gem. That is when we heard it. The same screech we had heard 2 days before. Quickly, we made our way out of the house to join the others. "Where did that come from?" I shouted as we ran through the door. In the direction of the barn, Dan said, his voice shaking. What should we do? We sat waiting for it to repeat, but it didn't. Maybe it was from behind the building. In a split second, a figure moved near the doorway. What was that? Leslie asked in a whisper. I can tell you what it isn't, Cameron began. It isn't a Sasquatch. What little relief that afforded us didn't last long. We needed to leave. That was much too dangerous in the dark. Let's see our time. Okay. Cameron and George extinguished the fire before making our way into the store. There was little protection behind the old wooden door. The glass picture windows were a concern. Within the tree line, there was a figure. It appeared to change as it moved. I had seen spirits, and this wasn't one. I racked my brain as to which other cryptid would be located in our area. Any possibility was not a good one. We hunkered down for the night. The men remained at the front of the store. The women decided to stay upstairs. Together in one room, we discussed our plight. The air became quiet, realizing how naive this hike had been. Sitting in the dark space, my mind wouldn't turn off. There has to be something this thing is afraid of. I refused to believe otherwise, I told them. The hike back was daunting. There was no possible way to relax. I would be peering off into the trees for any shape that appeared out of place. I went off on my own to another room. I stood by the window, praying to catch a glimpse of this cryptid. There was a sound above me. It was footsteps. Quickly, I ran back to the women. Quietly, I urged them to follow me. The men turned, hearing us descend the staircase. What's wrong? Cameron stopped. Cameron stepped forward. I heard footsteps on the roof. In a flash, the men were upstairs looking for access to the roof. Finding no way to gain it, they made their way back down. With flashlights, they scoured the roof for any sign. There was nothing. Cameron was now sure this was no monster. This was all being done by a human. I myself was not convinced. In the morning, they would search for tracks. I can't say our sleep was peaceful, but we did sleep. There were a couple of moments I heard the doorknob jiggle while everyone slept. We were up at the first... Sorry about that, everyone. I didn't realize that the phone had shut off. So I will pick up where I heard it cut off. We were up at the first ray of dawn. Leaving our packs on the porch, we circled the building. This person must be a good climber, Dawn said. Do you see any footprints? I asked. Over here, Leslie called out. On the ground was a print, a 3-toed print. There was only one. We all looked at each other confused. What was it? I still say it's a human. Cameron glanced over to the barn. I believe our answer is in there. He pointed towards it. Don't go in there. I gave him a stern look. So that's what I have written so far. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to my YouTube family for coming by. For coming by this evening. Greatly appreciated as always. I enjoy reading your comments, and I look forward to hearing what you think of this story so far. Anyone new to my channel, welcome. Please feel free to check out any of my other videos here. I cover a gambit of different things. Paranormal, crafts, my stories, fun facts. I'm sure you'll find something of interest. And if you do, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Share it out with family, friends, and co-workers. Anyone you think would enjoy. While you're here, also consider becoming a subscriber. And if you do subscribe, please take that extra step and click the notification bell so that you'll know the next time that I upload. I will be working on the rest of this story this evening and probably tomorrow at work until I feel it's complete. I have a couple of different ways this may go. I want to leave you hanging. So once again, thank you for coming by. I hope you have a great rest of your evening and that you have a great Wednesday and that you have good weather. And as always, until the next time, ciao for now. Oh, the girls are on the bed. Miss Sassy. Miss Giz. Gizzy. Gizzy girl. Gizzy girl. Miss Pearl. What'd you guys do with your brother? Where's your brother? Let's go see. Huh? Hello, Waverly, babe. Oh, what was that? You staying away from your sisters? Yeah? Okay. Oh. Giz. No. Gizzer. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. She's climbing on my backpack, little fart. Miss Giz. It's a party in the hallway. Everybody loves Daddy's boots. Whoop. Sassy. Sassy pants. There goes the bum. You gonna get him? Get her? Whoop. What's she doing, Pearl?
Would you call the status of this relationship right now? I can't reconcile going forward because I've lost that trust.
Well, is the butt gonna wiggle?
I can comfortably say right now.
Maybe not. What you doing, Sass?
Yeah, me too. There has to be some kind of deception, some kind of scam that never actually came.
Oh, somebody's got a ping pong ball.
I'm sure we'll never.
What are you doing, Miss Pearl? Little Pearl, what are you doing in there? Silly baby. You getting Daddy's boots? Pearl, what are you doing? Huh? What's you doing? Oh, silly girl. Silly girl. What's that, guys?
Chocolate mint. Trap, lock, and remove 3 times more dust than traditional dusters. While Sweeper dries ultra thick
What's
pad
that?
traps dust, dirt, and hair in one easy swipe.
Nope,
And
don't like
reaches deep
chocolate
into flooring.
Pearl's gonna circle the bowl.
To quickly and easily remove dust, dirt, and hair, try Swiffer. Brand power, helping you buy better.
Oh, I have a little bit of it.
Still possible. Your local CIBC
Go ahead, Pearl.
will show you how.
Good
With a
stuff.
plan unique to your ambition
That's
and
it.
without support.
Get the other